The dinner rush at Le Lumiere always felt like a storm. Plates clinked. Glasses chimed. Voices rose and fell like waves. But that night, for Emma, everything narrowed down to one table. The corner booth by the window. The one no one else was allowed to take. A tall man in a dark suit sat there, his posture straight, his face calm. But his fingers kept tapping the edge of his glass. Tap, tap, tap. His eyes moved between his phone and the documents on the table. His name, Emma had heard, was Daniel Cole. A billionaire. A man people whispered about in the kitchen. "Don't stare," whispered Mia, another waitress, bumping Emma with her elbow. "That guy owns half the city. One wrong move and we're all fired." Emma forced a smile. "I'm not staring. I'm just observing." Short pause. The restaurant lights were warm and golden. Outside, the city glowed with cold, distant lights. Inside, people laughed, flirted, celebrated. But at Daniel's table, the air felt different. Heavy. Serious. Two other men in expensive suits sat with him, their smiles wide, their voices controlled. "Tonight's the night," the manager had said earlier, smoothing his tie in the reflection of the wine fridge. "Biggest deal of the year. Investors. Contracts. Millions. Do not make a mistake." Emma had nodded and gone back to polishing cutlery. Millions. That was a number she couldn't even imagine. Her world was tips, overdue rent, and her mother's hospital bills sitting quietly in a folder under her bed. Emma walked toward the table, tray steady in her hands. "Good evening, gentlemen," she said softly. "Can I get you anything else? Another bottle of water? Coffee, maybe?" One of the men, the one with slicked back hair and a too-perfect smile, glanced up at her name tag. "Emma," he read aloud, then looked her up and down. "We're fine. Just keep the refills coming. We're talking big money here." The other man chuckled. "Yeah, bigger than your yearly salary in a single line on this paper." They laughed. Emma smiled politely, but something in her chest tightened. Daniel didn't laugh. He barely reacted. He just studied the pages in front of him, brow furrowing for a second before smoothing out again. As Emma turned to leave, she heard one of the men murmur under his breath. "He has no idea," he said, voice low. "We're going to walk out of here with this locked. The clause is buried deep. He won't see it. Not tonight." Emma paused for half a second. Just half a second. She didn't mean to listen. She knew she shouldn't. But years of working in a restaurant had trained her to pick up on tones, on whispers, on the tension that came right before trouble. Her heartbeat quickened. She moved away, pretending she hadn't heard a thing. But the words followed her. "He has no idea. The clause is buried deep." In the kitchen, the noise swallowed her. Orders were being shouted. Pans sizzled. Her manager rushed past her. "Emma, table 3 needs their dessert. And keep an eye on the VIP table. They signed tonight. It's good for us if he's happy." If he's happy. Emma swallowed. What if he wouldn't be happy once he found out? What if he was really being deceived? She tried to shake it off. She had her own problems. Her mother's treatment. The rent. The extra shift she had picked up because she couldn't afford to say no. This was not her business. He was a billionaire. He had lawyers, advisors, people far smarter and richer than her. Yet, every time she walked past the corner booth, her eyes were pulled toward the documents. To the way the slick-haired man kept pointing at one page, then quickly flipping to another. To the way the other one avoided Daniel's gaze whenever numbers came up. Her gut twisted. A familiar feeling. The same feeling she'd had when her father lost their house because a friend had tricked him into signing a deal he didn't fully understand. Silent moment. "Emma?" Mia's voice broke through her thoughts. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." Emma forced a shaky breath. "Yeah, just tired." But as she stole one last glance at the billionaire in the corner, her mind whispered a single thought. Someone should tell him. And the most terrifying part was that the only person who seemed to notice was her. The night grew later. The candles on the tables burned lower. The crowd thinned, but the VIP table remained. Contracts had appeared. Pens lay on the table beside untouched dessert. Emma moved like a shadow between tables, but her eyes kept drifting back. "Relax," Mia muttered, nudging her again. "You're wound so tight it looks like you're about to explode." Emma hesitated. "Do you ever get the feeling something's wrong, even if you can't prove it?" Mia snorted. "At this job? Every day. But I ignore it and collect my tips. You should too." Maybe Mia was right. Maybe this was none of her business. But then Emma passed the table again and heard it. "He'll never see it," the slick-haired man whispered, his voice low but sharp. Page 9. Subsection C. The liability shift. "We offload everything. He eats the losses. And we walk away clean." Emma's body went cold. Daniel looked tired. There were faint shadows under his eyes. He rubbed his temples, then picked up his pen. The other partner smiled broadly. "Daniel," Slick Hair said smoothly, "this is the final version. Same as we agreed. We've just tightened a few points to protect both sides. You trust us, right?" Emma's heart slammed in her chest. Page 9. Subsection C. The words bounced in her mind. She took a step back, hiding behind a pillar, pulse roaring in her ears. She stared at the contract from a distance, trying to catch a glimpse of the page. She couldn't see the details, but she could see something else clearly. Daniel was about to sign. Her legs trembled. She knew she should walk away. She was a waitress. He was a billionaire. They lived in different worlds. But that feeling in her stomach, the same one from her childhood when her father had held a shaking contract in his hands, it wouldn't go away. Emma slipped into the staff hallway and pulled out her phone. Her hands shook so much she could barely type. She searched the company name she'd heard them mention. Articles popped up. Rumors. Lawsuits. Words like fraud, collapse, debt. Her throat closed. One headline stood out. "Investors lose millions as company quietly shifts liability before collapse." Shifted liability. Just like the man had said. Just like page 9, subsection C. She looked toward the hallway entrance. She could see just a sliver of the dining room. The corner booth. The pen in Daniel's hand. Pause. Her mind raced. If she said nothing, life stayed the same. She'd go home, count her tips, worry about her mother, and pretend she had never heard anything. If she spoke, she could lose everything. Her job, her only source of income, her fragile stability. But she also remembered her father's face when he had realized he'd been tricked. The way his shoulders had slumped. The way he had whispered, "I should have known. I should have seen it." Emma's breathing grew shallow. "I can't," she whispered to herself. "I can't just watch this happen again." She stepped out of the hallway. Each step toward the VIP table felt like walking through water. The restaurant seemed quieter now. The sounds muffled, as if the entire place was holding its breath. Daniel glanced down at the dotted line. "Gentlemen," he said, voice tired but polite. "Once I sign this, we're locked in." "Exactly," Slick Hair replied. "And trust me, this deal is the safest bet you'll ever make." Emma swallowed hard. Her hands were clammy. Her heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear herself think. She stopped beside the table. No one looked at her at first. She was invisible the way waitresses often are. Then she took a breath that felt like it would split her chest in two. "Sir," she said, her voice barely more than a whisper. No one reacted. She tried again, louder. "Sir." Daniel's eyes lifted to her slowly. Annoyance flickered across Slick Hair's face. "What is it?" Slick Hair snapped. "We're in the middle of something important." Emma's throat was dry. Her instincts screamed at her to apologize and walk away. But the words came anyway. They tumbled out before she could stop them. "Sir, you're being deceived." Silence. The entire table froze. One of the men laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What did you just say?" he asked, his voice sharp. Emma's breath shook. I heard him mention a clause. Page 9. Subsection C. Liability shift. I looked up your partner's company. There are lawsuits, articles. People lost everything. I think they're hiding something from you. The words hung in the air like thunder waiting to break. Daniel's gaze hardened. His fingers tightened around the pen. For a moment, his expression was unreadable. Cold. Dangerous. Who? He asked softly. Do you think you are to say that to me? And Emma suddenly realized she had just put her entire life on the line. Blood rushed to Emma's ears. Her knees felt weak, but she forced herself to stand straight. I'm sorry, sir, she whispered. I know I'm just a waitress, but I couldn't stay quiet. The slick-haired man leaned back in his seat, eyes narrowed. This is ridiculous, he scoffed. Daniel, are you really going to entertain accusations from staff? She's probably misheard something while eavesdropping. The other partner smirked. Maybe she's fishing for attention. Or a tip. Emma's cheeks burned, but she didn't back down. I wasn't eavesdropping, she said quietly. You spoke loudly. I heard enough. And I checked your company online. There are red flags. Daniel's eyes didn't leave her face. They searched her expression, her trembling hands, the fear she was desperately trying to hide. Phone, he said. Emma blinked. Sir, your phone, he repeated. Show me what you saw. For a second she froze, then quickly unlocked her phone and handed it to him with shaking fingers. Her search results were still open, the article headlines glaring back like accusations. Daniel scanned them, his eyes moving fast. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He flicked to another article, another lawsuit, another warning. He didn't speak. The two men shifted in their seats. Fake news, Slickhair said quickly. Competitors, rivals. You know how these things go, Daniel. You can't trust everything you read online. Daniel finally looked at them. His gaze was sharper now. Then you won't mind if we review page 9, subsection C, together. Slowly. A flicker. Just a flicker of panic in their eyes. But it was enough. He slid the contract back toward himself, flipping through the pages until he found the one Emma had mentioned. His finger traced the lines of text, his eyes narrowing. Liability for all pending and undisclosed legal actions shall be borne solely by the second party, he read aloud. Meaning me. Slickhair cleared his throat. Standard phrasing. Legal formality. Our lawyers insisted. And yet, Daniel interrupted, his tone ice cold now. You never mentioned this to me. Not once. Why? The room felt even quieter now. Even the clink of dishes from the kitchen seemed distant. Emma stood frozen, feeling horribly exposed and yet unable to move. Slickhair tried to smile. Daniel, we didn't think it was necessary to bother you with legal jargon. That's what lawyers are for. Daniel's expression darkened. My lawyer isn't here. You insisted on keeping this simple and handling it over dinner. No distractions. No advisors. He turned the contract around and tapped the suspicious clause. You tried to bury this. You tried to push your company's risk onto me, knowing that if everything fell apart, I'd be the one paying the price. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. The calm anger in it was far more frightening. One of the men started to protest. That's a gross misunderstanding. Is it? Daniel asked quietly. Then let's do this. We remove this clause entirely. We bring in my team tomorrow. We renegotiate every line. If this is all as standard and safe as you say, you shouldn't have a problem with that. Right? A long, choking silence followed. The partners exchanged a look. One that said everything without a word. Then Slickhair pushed his chair back, face tight. If you don't trust us, Daniel, then there's no deal. Daniel nodded once. You're right. There's no deal. Chairs scraped the floor. Papers were shoved into briefcases. The men stormed out of the restaurant, leaving behind half-eaten desserts and an air thick with tension and embarrassment. Emma watched them go, her heart still thundering. She'd done it. She'd blown up a multi-million-dollar deal. A billionaire's deal. Her manager hurried over, panic written all over his face. Emma, what did you do? He hissed. Do you have any idea who that was? You can't just interrupt guests like that. Leave us, Daniel said suddenly. The manager froze. Sir. Daniel looked at him, his expression unreadable. "Give us a moment." The manager stuttered. "Oh, of course. I'm so sorry, Mr. Cole. She'll be outside," Daniel repeated calmly. The manager retreated, shooting Emma a look full of dread. She swallowed hard. Now it was just her and the billionaire. Daniel folded his hands on the table, considering her. The candlelight cast soft shadows on his face, but his eyes were sharp, focused. "What's your name again?" he asked. "Emma, sir." "How long have you been working here, Emma?" "Almost 3 years," she replied, voice barely steady. "Since my mother got sick. I took double shifts to pay for her treatments." He tilted his head slightly. "So you risked your job tonight? For a stranger?" She looked down at her hands. I risked it because I know what it's like to watch someone lose everything over a hidden line in a contract." Silent beat. "My father signed something once," she continued softly. "Trusted someone he shouldn't have. We lost our house, our savings, everything. No one warned him. No one said, 'You're being deceived.' Couldn't let that happen again. Not if I could stop it." For the first time that night, Daniel's expression softened. "Just a fraction. You understand," he said quietly, "that if you had been wrong, I would have fired you on the spot." She nodded. "Yes, sir. And yet you still spoke." She met his gaze, fear and stubborn courage both shining in her eyes. "Yes, sir." Daniel leaned back in his seat, exhaling slowly. Then he said something that made her stomach lurch. "I haven't decided yet," he murmured, "whether tonight was the biggest mistake of your life or the bravest thing I've seen in years." After the partners left, the restaurant slowly emptied. Chairs were stacked. Lights were dimmed. The soft music faded into silence. Emma stayed behind, wiping tables with shaky hands. Her manager avoided looking at her. Mia just gave her a helpless shrug. "You're insane," Mia whispered as she grabbed her bag. "But I kind of admire it." When everyone else had gone, only the corner booth remained occupied. Daniel sat alone now, his jacket undone, his tie loosened. The serious billionaire from earlier looked almost human. "Emma," he called gently. Her heart jumped. She placed the cloth down and walked over, unsure if this was the walk to her firing or something else entirely. "Sit," he said, nodding to the seat across from him. She hesitated. "Sir, I'm still on shift." "You're not," he replied. "Not for the next few minutes." She lowered herself into the seat, hands clasped tightly in her lap. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The city lights outside glowed against the glass, and the faint hum of traffic filled the quiet. "Do you know how much that deal was worth?" Daniel asked at last. Emma swallowed. "Millions, sir. I heard." "Several million," he confirmed. "Years of negotiation. Months of work. Everyone expected me to sign tonight. They'll think I backed out because I got scared. That I listened to a waitress." He said the word gently, but it still stung. "I'm sorry, sir," she murmured. "If I've ruined things for you, You didn't ruin anything," he interrupted. "You stopped me from making a mistake that would have cost me far more than money." He looked down at the contract again, now closed and pushed aside. "I've been in this world a long time, Emma. People smile at you while they sharpen the knife behind their back. They call it business. They call it strategy. Sometimes you want to believe someone so badly. You ignore the warning signs." He glanced at her. "Tonight, a stranger noticed more than the men I've trusted for years." Emma blinked. "I didn't notice everything, sir. I just listened and checked what I could. That was enough." He studied her. "You said your mother is sick." She nodded, surprised he remembered. "Yes, sir. She has a heart condition. The treatments are expensive. I work nights so I can be there for her in the mornings." "Do you like this job?" he asked. She hesitated. "I'm grateful for it. That's not what I asked." Emma looked down at her hands. A small, sad smile tugged at her lips. "No," she admitted. "I don't like it. I like people. I like hearing their stories. But running around with plates while my feet ache and my back throbs, it's not my dream." He watched her closely. "What is your dream?" She laughed softly, almost embarrassed. "It doesn't matter, sir." "It matters to me," he insisted. She sighed. "I used to want to study business, finance. I wanted to help people like my father, people who don't understand contracts and hidden clauses. I wanted to be the person who said, 'Wait, read that again.' But we lost everything. College was no longer an option. So I ended up here." A quiet fell between them again. Her confession hung in the air, raw and unpolished. Daniel leaned back, his gaze thoughtful. "You know," he said slowly, "I have teams of analysts, lawyers, advisors, people with degrees from the best schools in the world. Yet tonight, the person who protected me wasn't any of them. It was a waitress who never got the chance to even start." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a sleek, black checkbook. Emma's heart stopped. "No," she said immediately, shaking her head. "Sir, I didn't do this for money." "I know," he said calmly. "That's why I'm still sitting here talking to you." He wrote something on the check, then slid it toward her face down. "Take a look." Her hands trembled as she flipped it over. The number written on it didn't even look real. It was more than she could earn in years of double shifts. Enough to pay off debts. Enough to breathe. "I can't accept this," she whispered, voice breaking. "Why not?" he asked gently. "Because it feels like payment," she said. "Like I did this for a reward. And I didn't. I did it because it was right." Her eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink away. Daniel watched her for a long moment. Then he quietly took the check back, tore it in half, and let the pieces fall onto the table. Emma gasped. "Why did you do that?" "Because now I know," he said softly, "that you are exactly who I thought you might be." She frowned through her tears. "Who is that?" He folded his hands, his expression firmer now, more resolved. "Someone I want on my side." He leaned forward slightly. "Emma," he said, "I have one more question for you tonight, and your answer might change your life more than anything you've done so far." Her breath caught. What is it, sir?" "The question is simple," Daniel said. "Do you want to spend the rest of your life serving tables? Or do you want a chance to change worlds like the one you changed tonight?" Emma stared at him, confused. "I don't understand." He smiled slightly. "You wanted to study business, to protect people from bad deals, to catch what others miss." He tapped the table. "That's exactly what you did for me tonight. Without training, without a degree, just instinct and courage." He slid a business card across the table. It was heavy, embossed with silver letters, Cole Enterprises. "I own a holding company," he continued. "Dozens of businesses, investments, deals like this one every month. I don't just need people who are smart. I need people I can trust. People who will speak up, even when it's inconvenient, even when they're terrified." Her eyes dropped to the card. His personal contact. A direct line into a world she had only ever seen from the outside. "I can't promise it will be easy," he said. "There will be tests, work, study, long nights. But if you're willing, I want to sponsor your education. Business school, finance, legal basics, whatever it takes. You'll start as an assistant in my risk and ethics team. Learn from the inside. One day, you might be the person who reviews deals like this before they even reach my desk." Emma's lips parted. "You'd do that? For me? You saved me several million tonight," he replied. "But more than that, you reminded me of something I'd almost forgotten." "What's that?" she asked. "That integrity still exists," he said softly. "And that sometimes, the person who sees the truth isn't the one at the head of the table, but the one carrying the tray." Her vision blurred. Tears slipped down her cheeks before she could stop them. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say yes," he answered simply. "Or say no. It's your choice. No pressure. No obligation. If you walk out of here and never call me, I'll still be grateful for what you did. But I'd be lying if I said I don't hope you choose the harder, braver path again." Emma looked at the card in her hand, at his name, his number. the possibility it represented. She thought of her mother, lying in a hospital bed with a tired smile, of her father, staring at a contract he hadn't understood, of every exhausting night she'd gone home with aching feet and a heart full of dreams she'd told herself to forget. She closed her fingers tightly around the card. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Good," Daniel said. "That means you understand how big this is. Courage isn't about not being scared, Emma. It's about doing the right thing anyway, just like you did tonight." She let out a shaky laugh. "You talk like you're offering me a job in a movie." He smiled. "Real life is stranger than movies. Trust me." He stood, leaving a generous tip on the table. Not the life-changing check he had torn up, but still more than she'd ever seen left in one go. As they walked toward the door, he paused and turned back to her. "One more thing," he said. "If anyone gives you trouble for what you did tonight, tell them to call me." Emma smiled for the first time that night. A real smile. "Yes, sir." He stepped out into the cool night air, his car waiting. For a moment, Emma watched him go, the billionaire disappearing into the city he owned. She looked down at the card again, felt heavy, important, like a key. Days later, Emma would sit beside her mother's hospital bed and tell her everything. Her mother would squeeze her hand and whisper, "You've always been brave, Em. Call him." Weeks later, Emma would walk through the glass doors of Cole Enterprises, her heart pounding just as it had that night in the restaurant. She would meet teams of people, sit in rooms full of contracts and numbers, and remember the girl who once wiped tables and dreamed of more. And months later, Daniel would introduce her in a meeting as the person who saved me millions with just one sentence. "Which sentence?" someone would ask. He would smile. "You're being deceived." Soft pause. Because sometimes, a single moment of courage can rewrite the entire story of your life. If you were in Emma's place, just a nobody in the eyes of the powerful, overhearing a lie that could cost someone millions, would you risk your job, your only income, and your stability to speak up, or stay silent and walk away? Backhand index pointing right, what would you do and why? Let me know in the comments.